Hey everybody, it's Jared from Frost Comics, and today I wanted to give you something a little bit different while I work on my next big video essay. In the meantime, I wanted to bring you a review of Alphacore, which is the third book from the Rippaverse. It's the first non-Isom book to be published by Eric July's company. So back when I reviewed video games, I would break the video games down into gameplay, graphics, sound, and longevity. And I think for a comic, I'm going to try to do 4 categories as well. I'm going to make it art, dialogue, plot, and pacing, and then give a final score out of 5. I think the artwork is inconsistent. I think the key word would be inconsistent. Some of the expressions are really memorable, for instance, and some of the other expressions are weird and kind of off-putting. Some of the action scenes are drawn really well, and then some of the more mundane scenes where there's not a lot happening, just they don't really look that good. I think that the shading seems a little bit off in some places. I'm not sure if it's because of Bennett and the pencils, or if it's because of the inkers or the colorists, but just from some of the artwork that I have seen for my own comics, I know that there are better shading techniques available because I've seen them used by the people that I've paid to do pages that I've commissioned. So I'm not sure if the shading is the inker that going too heavy or too hard on the lines, or if it was a decision to kind of look more traditional when there weren't as many shading options available to print. Genuinely, I don't know, but it did kind of jump out to me as a little bit odd. So the shading does seem a little bit odd, but I'm not really sure if that was a design choice or not, or I'm not sure if that was an artistic decision or not. All right, this old woman, that is an insane looking expression. But that's kind of what I mean. Like, some of them, like, that's really well detailed and even somewhat horrifying, I think. Braxwell has got a couple of pages like this where you see him in his grimace where he's straining to go as fast as he can, stuff like that. That one is just not flattering for her at all. That's Ingrid. That's just not a flattering panel for her. That one there is like, this is one of the weirdest.
The fuck is that?
There's some really good expressions. There's really memorable ones, especially when they're straining. But then there are other parts where it just looks out of place. Like some of the faces just look odd, kind of like an uncanny valley. The action generally looks really good. As you saw with some of those pages and panels there, the action generally is pretty solid. I think that Bennett does a really good job of capturing the action and making that kind of stand out. And so all the action that happens in the comic is really well drawn. There's really frantic. But then I think a lot of the story scenes are kind of like, it doesn't do so good with those. I think the book is supposed to be like a little sexier than Isom. Like, there's more, there seems to be more of an emphasis on Lillian, who is one of the villains. I'll get to her in a moment. And Ingrid, I wouldn't say it's really hyper focused on accentuating their femininity or their assets. You know, there's a panel or two like this where it's like, you know, I'm pretty sure the focus of this panel is Ingrid's ass. I don't have an objection to that. It's just that I kind of got the vibe that between Ingrid and some of the paneling that focuses on her suit, and some of the panels that focus on Lillian and a masseuse later. There's like a scene where she's basically in a towel, and I think it's kind of supposed to be a little sexier, but it's not really that sexy. I don't know how to. I don't want to say like it just fails. It's just like with the art kind of being odd in those scenes, like her face there is not really like, it's not really that sexy. And that masseuse looks like she's about to bend Michael in half. Like, she looks like she's about to Hulk out. Like, I don't know, unless he's into a muscle mommy. Maybe Michael's into muscle mommies, and maybe that's why that masseuse looks like she could power bomb him. But yeah, I think that the art is really at its best whenever it's like intense and in the action, and then everything in between that kind of is where that's kind of where the art starts to struggle. So it's kind of inconsistent. Again, that's the key word. Dialogue. So one of Isom's biggest weaknesses was dialogue. In Isom 1 and 2, everyone spoke the same, and they all sounded really unnatural. Now, thankfully, Alphacore has a much more natural, conversational dialogue for pretty much every character. We even see some instances of like slang, some accents, things like that. There's even a running joke with one of the characters where he keeps biting his tongue, and so because he bites his tongue, it changes the way that his the spelling is in his dialogue balloons. So he's trying to curse, but he says pitch or stuff like that instead. And so that's great. That's a huge improvement from Isom. Now, obviously, this was written by a different person. This was written by Chuck Dixon, not Eric July. For the upcoming Isom 3, we can hope that with that one and with Yairo, we're going to see better dialogue for the Rippaverse in general. I would like to see dialogue like this in Isom because it would make Isom much more believable. Everyone in Isom 1 and 2 kind of speaks like Eric speaks. Like Eric uses the word, if you watch his content, he'll use the word nevertheless. Most people in day-to-day speech don't say nevertheless, but a lot of people in Isom will say nevertheless, or they'll say things that Eric says. So to me, being familiar with Eric as a video creator and reading his work, it seems like his voice is projecting from all of the characters, whereas in Alphacore, everyone sounds like their own unique character. Now, the exception to this is when you start getting into some like the police work, the police procedural stuff. So there's like an instance where Solari is talking to the chief of police. Now, the chief of police talks like a chief of police. So if you have ever seen a cop drama or a police procedural or anything like that, and you've listened to the chief chew out a detective who, doing something or breaking the rules or whatever, all the dialogue, you've heard it already. You've read it already. So there's nothing really new there, but at the same time, I don't really think that's a fault of Alphacore or Dixon. I mean, it's just how we as civilians imagine police hierarchy to work, right? Or in some cases, if it's been written by someone who was in a department position in their career, they've written it that way authentically. And so we imagine that that's how it would sound, right? So I don't really fault that for being kind of dry, and I don't consider it a negative or hold it against the comic, but there is a decent amount of that in there where they're talking about like police work, and if you like that, then you're going to like that. But for everyone else who's looking for like more superhero and less like police procedure, they might find it a little bit dry, but overall the dialogue is a huge improvement over Isom. So if that was one of your concerns, or one of your hopes, I guess I should say, with Dixon taking the reins in this book, he knocked the dialogue out of the park significantly better than Isom 1 and 2. Plot, however, is a different concern, a different issue entirely. So I'm surprised and disappointed to say this, but the plot for Alphacore is actually really thin. There is some decent world building. You see how Alphacore functions. You see how the city works with Alphacore, like how public perception influences their ability to do their job, how they work within the department, how they're a part of the department. Since this is a book about Alphacore, learning about how Alphacore works and about their flying base and who staffs the base, all that stuff, that's all good. So I'm very happy with all that stuff. The problem is that there's nothing more to sink your teeth into. There's nothing about the Alphacore members that we learn at all. I am genuinely surprised to say this, but I know exactly as much about Brian Solari now after reading this book than I knew about him after reading this book, which is shocking to me. Does he have a wife? Does he have kids? Is he a dog person? Does he like to swim? Did he play football? Does he like basketball? Does he have a gambling problem? Does he like to drink? Was he in the Air Force or the Army? I have no idea. I don't know any of these things about him, which is shocking that I have learned nothing about this person after reading 96 pages about him. The only character that you really learned the tiniest bit about, it was Ingrid. You find out her feelings about being in Alphacore as it relates to the rest of the police department. Braxwell, who is so unremarkable that I actually was calling him Braxton for 3 days before I reread the book, and I was like, oh, that's not even his name. His name is Braxwell. Braxwell has one line of dialogue in the entire book, so I know nothing about him either. The villains are two characters who had a cameo appearance in Isom 1, and they're in the club where Avery is whatever Avery's doing. They're in the club and they spout some like vague nonsense dialogue that has like no meaning, tells me nothing about what they can do, tells me nothing about what they want. So they're the villains in this. I still know nothing about them. So I guess if I don't know how much Dixon knows about them. Maybe Chuck was given like the story Bible, and Eric wanted him to play it really, 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 really close to so close to the vest. It's inside the vest. It's under the shirt. It's under the undershirt. It's pressed right against. Maybe he kept it that close, and that's why I know nothing about them. Or maybe that's still being written, but I have no idea what they can do. I know that from Isom 1, Michael can make his eyes glow green. I know that Lillian can make purple stuff with her purple flash stuff with her fingers. I have no idea what that can do. So I don't know what either of them can do. They're like vaguely wealthy. They're like vaguely working against the police. I don't know to what ends, but I still don't know what these villains can do. Mostly what they do is they just send like Freak of the Week villains, like the kind of villain that you'd see from like the CW Flash or CW Supergirl. They send them out to kind of do their dirty work. They kind of like vaguely comment about what the Freak of the Week is up to. I have no investment in them as villains yet. If you've watched a video of mine, you probably know this. I love Spider-Girl, right? This is my Volume 1 complete collection. So within this treasured tome of mine is the first issue, the What If issue of Spider-Girl. This is a 26-page comic book. You find out she's Mayday. You find out what she likes to do. She plays basketball. You find out what she can do, what her superpowers are. You find out why she's got those superpowers because of her dad. You find out who her dad is, what her dad did, what her mom does, why the villain makes an appearance, what the villain's motivation is. All these things I learn about the character within 26 pages. It is astonishing to me that Alphacore's 96 pages and I don't know anything about these characters. Again, if you've watched my videos about Eric July, if you watch the debate that I hosted, I'm not a hater. I don't have anything against the Rippaverse fans, and if you like Alphacore, great. But this is a problem to me. Like, I feel like I should know who Brian Solari is. I feel like I should know who Braxwell is. I feel like I should know who Ingrid is. After 96 pages, like how in 96 pages, how do I not know anything about these characters? That's surprising to me, and I feel like it's a problem. I feel like that needs to be addressed in issue 2. I know that a lot of people say, well, you just have to wait. The explanation is coming. I know a lot of people say that about Isom 1 and 2 and things like, you know, what happened to Jasmine? Why are the Hell Monkeys? Where they come from? Fair enough. You know, they've got one more issue to answer all these questions. But with Alphacore, it's a one standalone introduction issue, 96 pages. How do I learn all that about Spider-Girl and I don't learn anything about these characters from Alphacore? Why not? Like, why not? Genuinely, I would like to know why that decision was made. So, last category, pacing. I actually think that the pacing for Alphacore is pretty good, with the exception being that the story doesn't really build tension. So there's a really good mix of back and forth action. So you have story and action. But the problem is that I don't have any feeling of tension. So there's a lot of good action with them, but because I don't care about them as characters, I don't have an investment in them the way that I have an investment in, again, Mayday. Like, I love Peter Parker, right? So I love Peter Parker's family by extension, and as I get to know May, I love May. And so I love May, and I love MJ, and I love Peter, and I want them to be able to survive against a villain attack from the villainous return of the Green Goblin, right? So I'm cheering for them, I'm pulling for them, there's tension. Are they going to survive? Of course. But are they going to survive? Are they going to overcome the odds of this new, more powerful Green Goblin? And that's exciting to me because I care about the characters. So there's rising tension as the story progresses until the big showdown. On the other hand, with Alphacore, because I don't know Brian Solari, I don't know whatever Braxwell's first name is. I don't know Braxwell. I don't know Ingrid. I don't know these people. I don't know what makes them tick. I don't know what the moral I'm supposed to take from it is. Actually, a really good point that someone brought up, shout out to Sam, when we were talking about Alphacore, he brought up how there's a simple moral to a lot of the most classic heroes. With Peter Parker, famously, with great power comes great responsibility. With Batman, for instance, there is preventing any child from suffering what he suffered as a child. With Punisher, it's about punishing and getting vengeance for the loss of what you love. So you can look at these classic heroes, and there's usually some, simple moral behind their actions that drives them to become vigilantes and become superheroes. I don't know what that is for Salieri. I don't know what that is for Ingrid. I don't know what that is for Braxwell, because I didn't connect with the characters. And I know this veers a little bit back into plot, but because I didn't connect with the characters, I didn't really have any tension. And so the while the pacing is good, the action, good, by the time that the story is reaching its climax, I'm just kind of like, okay, well, yeah, I'm not really invested, So score. Let's go to the overall score. Overall, I don't think that Alphacore is a bad book. I don't think it's very good either. Overall, I would give Alphacore a 3 out of 5. I will do a separate spoiler video later. I just wanted to get my initial review of this book out, spoiler free, out in the open. I have some serious problems with some of the characters themselves, but I don't want to dive into that too in depth or give away anything in the spoiler-free video. So thank you for watching. I hope if you did pick up Alphacore that you loved it. Please leave me a comment below. Let me know why you liked it, why you didn't like it. If you're going to buy the second one, if you're going to buy Yaira, let me know. And I would love to hear from you guys. Like, subscribe, and share all that YouTuber crap. I appreciate you checking out the video. I hope you have a great holiday season, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and thank you once again and always for watching.